also made it very clear that we are open for this kind of discussion. We are pragmatic, cold-blooded Scandinavian people with a warm heart. But it is not easy when we wake up every morning to new threats. Please convey that message to the President. And therefore, for a second, I thought, we have managed not to solve the problem, but to find a pathway forward. It was disrupted by the statement from the President, and that's a reality of life. And that's why it's so important that all our allies in the NATO alliance and the European Union stand up for these principles to show the American President, you have a desire, you have a vision, you have a request, but you will never be able to achieve that by putting pressure on us. That signal is of crucial importance in order to, I would say, to push the Americans back into the meeting room as we agreed last week. I used the word surprised, and I think I will stay on that. I mean, I have no intention to escalate things. I've had this discussion with the President in my former capacity as Prime Minister, and it's a matter of fact that we had casualties in Afghanistan totally similar to the US casualties. At that specific occasion, he said, you made a good argument. I want to repeat that one. And of course, I realize that the Vice President said you could have done many things, proper in the past. Will that define the future? I think it gives you credit. I mean, you can always count on Denmark, as we always can count on UK. Well, first of all, my response to the Prime Minister is that we really appreciate the very strong statement for him from his side, arguing that, there are principles in life. And even though UK has a very special relationship to UK, which I acknowledge, especially after Brexit, there are red lines which can't be crossed. This is a matter of basic principles, and we are living in 2026 where you can trade with people, but you can't trade people. And listening to a UK Prime Minister who stands up for that principle is very, very important. And then, of course, I realize you can't leave anything out until the President himself have decided to leave anything out.
On the evening of Saturday, the 17th of January, President Trump announced the intention to impose 10% tariffs on goods from Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, and the UK over the future of Greenland. This is a serious moment for our transatlantic discussions and partnerships. So let me outline to the House the UK's response, which rests on three key principles. First, Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Its future is a matter for Greenlanders and the Danes, and them alone. This reflects the fundamental principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity to which this whole House is committed. Second, the use or the threat of tariffs against allies in this way is completely wrong, it is unwarranted, and it is counterproductive. Third, Arctic security is a shared concern and a shared responsibility for both sides of the Atlantic. It can only be effectively addressed and maintained through a cooperation between transatlantic allies and, crucially, through NATO. So instead of divisions that only aid our adversaries, we now need a serious and constructive dialogue about our Arctic security, which is built on respect for sovereignty and collective security and the rules which underpin our alliance. As the Prime Minister set out this morning, the North Star for the government's foreign policy is to stand up for the UK's national interest, to defend and advance Britain's security, Britain's prosperity, and Britain's values. And we do so through the alliances and partnerships that we build abroad that make us stronger here at home, including alliances where that transatlantic cooperation between Europe and North America has long been vital. As the Prime Minister has made clear, our close and deep-rooted partnership with the United States is a hugely important part of our security and our prosperity. The depth of our cooperation on intelligence sharing and defence helps keep us safe, and our trading relationship and the new agreements we have reached in the last 12 months are driving billions of pounds of investment in the UK, supporting jobs across the country. But the Prime Minister has also made clear that we will be very direct about our differences, as he was in speaking to President Trump yesterday. Because standing up for the UK national interest means the defending the principles that underpin stable and enduring international cooperation. That means respect for sovereignty, and it means respect for long-standing allies. Denmark is a close ally of the United Kingdom and the United States. Indeed, Denmark has long been one of the US's closest allies, a proud NATO member that has stood shoulder to shoulder with the UK and with the US, including at real human cost in recent decades. Rooted in that partnership, the US already has in place a 1951 treaty with Denmark, which already provides for an extensive US security presence in Greenland. And alliances endure because they are built on respect and partnership, not pressure. And tariff threats like this are no way to treat allies. Yeah. Madam Deputy Speaker, the tariff threat has come following the pre-coordinated preparations for the annual Danish programme of activities under the framework Arctic Endurance, which is focused on addressing Russian security threats in the Arctic. And last week, at the request of the Danish government, one UK military officer currently based in Denmark joined a planning group visit in an observational capacity. And these sorts of visits are a regular part of military planning ahead of exercises and operations. Work amongst allies to strengthen Greenland's security that should be recognised for its importance, not used as a reason to impose economic pressure. A trade war would hurt workers and businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. It would be in no one's interests. Both sides of the Atlantic should be working together on Arctic security, not moving apart. And that is why the Prime Minister and this government are working intensively in the UK national interest to prevent this happening and to reach a resolution. Yesterday, the Prime Minister spoke directly with President Trump, with the Danish Prime Minister and other close allies and international leaders. Today, I welcomed the Danish Foreign Minister, Lars Rasmussen, here to London for valuable discussions earlier today, and the Europe Minister has been in touch with the Greenland Foreign Minister. I've also been in direct contact with the US, Canada, France, Germany, and other European colleagues, and on Wednesday, my Right Honourable friend, the Defence Secretary, will visit Denmark. We will continue with this urgent diplomacy in pursuit of the principles that I have set out. And we will also argue for the strengthening of our multilateral cooperation around Arctic security. Because the Arctic is the gateway for Russia's Northern Fleet to threaten Britain, Western Europe, and North America. Threats to undersea cables, threats to critical national infrastructure. We've seen greater presence of Russian ships and submarines making their way to the North Atlantic. We've seen Russian aircraft testing our air defence, as shadow fleet vessels pass through our waters, trying to evade our sanctions and continuing to fund the war in Ukraine. Northern Norway, Finland, sea routes through Greenland, Iceland, UK gaps have long been strategically significant when considering Russian threats. And we know that the strategic significance of the Arctic is likely to grow as the melting of Arctic ice stands to open new routes through the Arctic Ocean, and with newfound geo-economic competition for critical minerals and rare earths. So Arctic security is crucial not just to the UK, but to the entire NATO alliance. Of the 8 countries north of the Arctic Circle, 7 are NATO allies. So across our alliance, working together, we can and should do more. In the bitter cold of this unforgiving landscape, our commando forces are training and exercising, preparing for contingencies. For more than 50 years, the Royal Marines have trained in the Norwegian Arctic, but we are increasing that commitment, doubling the number of Marines there from 1,000 to 2,000 in the space of 3 years, and I pay tribute to the phenomenal work that they do. Alongside the landmark Lunar House Defence Agreement that will see the UK and Norway jointly operate a new fleet of Type 26 anti-submarine warfare frigates to hunt Russian submarines and protect our critical undersea infrastructure. And in the autumn, the UK-led Joint Expeditionary Force saw thousands of troops, including over 1,700 British personnel, dozens of ships, vehicles and aircraft, deployed from the Baltics to Iceland. And the UK plans to contribute to a range of exercises in the North Atlantic and High North throughout 2026. Because this is how we believe we best strengthen our Arctic security for the sake of both Western Europe and North America, together through alliances and partnerships, not through threats on tariffs or sovereignty that simply undermine our collective security. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, I welcome the messages of cross-party unity and the shared conviction that the future of Greenland must be determined by the Greenlanders and the Danes. And whether it be on Greenland, on tariffs or on wider Arctic security, we are clear in our views, firm in our principles and steadfast in our commitment to safeguarding UK interests. The UK will continue to pursue constructive ways forward, collaborating intensively with our partners and allies, and pursuing our security, our prosperity, and our values every step of the way.